3 true Lunchley horror stories. Like and subscribe for more. Number 1. It was the day everyone had been waiting for. Lunchley had finally hit the shelves. With the combined star power of MrBeast, Logan Paul, and KSI, this was no ordinary lunchbox. Packaged like a snack-sized revolution, it promised to be fun, filling, and packed with surprises. But no one expected what lay inside. Alex and his friends had seen the viral ads. They rushed to the store after school, eager to get their hands on the latest craze. The box was colorful, the faces of their favorite creators beaming from the front. "You won't believe what's inside," Logan's voice echoed in Alex's mind from the promo videos. He ripped open the packaging with excitement. Inside was a strange assortment of snacks, cracker-like wafers, some gooey meat spread, and a fizzy packet of powdered drink mix that seemed to shimmer in the light. It looked normal, but something about the smell was off. A little metallic, a little rotting. "Come on, let's try it," said Tyler, one of Alex's friends. They laughed, daring each other to eat the weird meat spread. One by one they took a bite, but as soon as the food hit their tongues, everything changed. The lights in the room flickered. Alex's vision blurred, and his hands started to feel sticky. He looked down, but his hands were clean. Still, the sensation wouldn't go away. Tyler suddenly clutched his throat, his eyes wide. "I can't breathe," he gasped. The others screamed, but no sound escaped their lips. Then they saw it, the shadow. It crawled from the Lunchley box, twisting and stretching across the floor like it was alive. It wasn't just a shadow, it was something far worse. Tendrils of darkness seeped from the snacks, curling around the friends' legs, tightening their grip. Alex tried to scream, but his voice felt stolen, like the air had been sucked out of the room. The faces of MrBeast, Logan Paul, and KSI on the box seemed to change. Their once smiling faces twisted into sinister grins, their eyes dark and hollow, watching, mocking. Suddenly the lights went out completely. In the pitch-black room, Alex could hear his friends gasping, struggling. Then, silence. The room was cold. Alex's heart raced, his breath shallow. He felt the dark tendrils creeping up his back, cold and slimy, whispering into his ear. "Are you having fun yet?" A voice said, eerily similar to Logan Paul's, but distorted, like it came from deep within a tunnel. A sharp pain shot through Alex's chest, and the world around him began to spin. The box in front of him cracked open further, revealing something writhing inside. The snacks were no longer snacks, they were alive. The meat spread squirmed with tiny, pulsing veins, and the crackers snapped at the air like jaws. With a final burst of courage, Alex threw the box across the room. But it was too late. The shadows engulfed him, and as he was pulled into the darkness, he saw his friends, frozen in terror, their bodies limp, their eyes wide open, lifeless. When the police arrived the next morning, the room was empty except for the torn packaging of a single Lunchley. The news called it a tragic mystery, and the Lunchley brand was quietly pulled from shelves. But those who were there knew better. Some say if you listen closely at night, you can still hear the whispers from the box. An echo of a sinister meal that's always hungry for more. Would you dare to take another bite? Number 2. Jake's stomach growled, pulling him from sleep. The clock blinked 12:03 a.m. in the darkness. He wasn't sure why he was so hungry, but the leftover Lunchley on the kitchen counter from earlier was calling to him. He dragged himself out of bed and padded quietly down the hall. The house was dead silent except for a faint rhythmic creak, like distant footsteps. Ignoring it, Jake pushed open the kitchen door, his eyes adjusting to the dim light from the refrigerator. There on the counter were the 3 Lunchley boxes he and his friends had opened earlier. The bright packaging should have stood out in the gloom, but now they looked different. The colors were washed out, the faces of MrBeast, Logan Paul, and KSI had blurred. Their smiles had warped into something else, too wide, too sharp, almost like they were sneering at him. Jake rubbed his eyes, trying to shake off the sleep, but the strange sensation of being watched crept up his spine. The jukebox was there too. He had forgotten about it. Had it always been there? It hummed softly, emitting a low static. But that wasn't the worst part. What was worse was the whispering. Faint, almost too quiet to hear, but it was there. Coming from the Lunchly boxes. His breath caught. He stared at the box labeled The Feast, the pizza Lunchly he'd been looking forward to all day. The pizza on the packaging no longer looked appetizing. The cheese had turned black, the pepperoni writhing as though something beneath the surface wanted to break free. Without thinking, he grabbed the box. His fingers trembled as the whispering grew louder. The words were garbled at first, but soon they became clear. Eat. You're so hungry. Eat. Jake's stomach growled again, but this time the sound echoed unnaturally. He opened the box. Inside, the slices of pizza looked damp and raw, the crust pulsing slightly. A strange liquid oozed from beneath the cheese, but the hunger gnawing at him became unbearable. He was too hungry to care. He reached for a slice. Just as his fingers brushed the cold, slimy crust, there was a loud knock on the kitchen window. His head snapped up, heart racing. The blinds were drawn, but something was outside. His eyes widened as he saw a shadow. A figure. It was KSI standing completely still. No, not KSI. Something wearing KSI's face. The face was wrong. His eyes were black, reflecting no light, no life. His smile stretched unnaturally wide, and in the dim glow of the moonlight, Jake could see his lips twitching as if whispering something horrible, something only the shadows could hear. The knocking continued, slow and deliberate, matching the beat from the jukebox that had somehow started playing KSI's new song, distorted and slowing down to a guttural hum. Jake stumbled back, knocking over a chair. He didn't dare approach the window, but the knocking wouldn't stop. Each knock sent a jolt of fear through him, vibrating in his bones. The whispers from the box grew louder, overlapping with the beat of the jukebox, forming a twisted chant. Open the box, eat, let him in. His mind screamed for him to stop, but his body moved on its own. He picked up the slice of pizza again. The closer he brought it to his mouth, the louder the whispers became. His hand shook violently, but he couldn't stop. Then the knocking stopped. Dead silence filled the room. Slowly, Jake turned his head toward the window. The figure of KSI was gone. Suddenly, a cold hand clamped down on his shoulder. Jake's scream died in his throat as he turned to face a twisted, half-rotten version of MrBeast, his eyes wide and dead, his face frozen in a grotesque grin, teeth sharp and glistening with something black. His breath stank of decay. Behind him in the shadows, he could see Logan Paul, too. His face mangled, eyes hollow, his body twitching as though barely holding together. You're hungry, right? MrBeast's voice was a raspy whisper, but the grin never left his face. Go on, eat. The room around Jake seemed to stretch and twist, the walls melting, growing darker as the shadows slithered across the floor, wrapping around his legs. The voices from the Lunchly boxes were deafening now, a chorus of tortured screams, urging him to take a bite. Jake couldn't hold back any longer. His stomach screamed for food, overriding the terror clawing at his mind. He took a bite. The taste was unbearable. Rot, decay, death. And as the darkness swallowed him whole, the last thing Jake saw were MrBeast, Logan Paul, and KSI standing around him, their faces twisted into monstrous versions of themselves, grinning wide, laughing softly as everything faded into cold, eternal black. Number 3. It was supposed to be just another weekend. Riley and his friends were excited to try the new Lunchly snack packs, mostly because of the buzz around them. MrBeast, Logan Paul, and KSI all promoting a new snack. How could they resist? The three of them, Riley, Marcus, and Jenna, had picked up a few boxes from the corner store and headed back to Riley's place to hang out. The packages looked bright and inviting, each one featuring the familiar smiling faces of the YouTubers. They grabbed their boxes and tore them open eagerly. Inside, everything seemed normal. Crackers, meat spread, a packet of prime drink. But there was something extra. Each box came with a small, unmarked card. Riley picked his up and turned it over. The card was jet black with glossy red text that read, "The feast awaits. Open after midnight." "What's this? Some promo thing?" Marcus asked, turning his card over as well. Jenna looked at hers but didn't seem as interested. "Probably some giveaway or challenge," Riley said. "You know how they love to do stuff like that." They tossed the cards aside and dug into their lunchly snacks. It tasted fine at first. Nothing extraordinary, but decent. But as they ate, a strange feeling began to settle in the air, like the walls were creeping closer. The light in the living room seemed to dim, though no one had touched the switch. By the time they had finished eating, Riley felt off. His stomach churned, but it wasn't just the food. Something else was wrong. The house seemed colder, and an unsettling sense of being watched grew stronger by the minute. "You guys feel weird?" Jenna asked, rubbing her arms. "It's freezing in here." Marcus frowned. "Yeah, but I don't know. It's more than that. Feels like something's off." Riley tried to laugh it off, but the creeping dread wouldn't go away. He glanced at the clock. 11:58 p.m. Just as the minute hand ticked to midnight, the room seemed to shudder. The lights flickered once, twice, then went out completely, plunging them into darkness. They all froze. "Power outage," Marcus whispered, but his voice trembled. "Hold on, I've got a flashlight on my phone," Riley said, fumbling for his pocket. But before he could turn it on, a soft sound broke the silence. A hum. Low and distant at first, but growing louder by the second. Then they heard it. Footsteps. Slow, deliberate, and echoing through the house as if someone, or something, was walking down the hallway toward them. Riley's hand shook as he turned on his phone's flashlight. The beam cut through the darkness, illuminating the room, but everything looked wrong. The walls seemed closer. The furniture looked distorted, almost melted, as if the shadows had warped reality itself. The footsteps grew louder, closer. The sound sent chills up their spines. Then, the humming became clearer. No longer just noise, but a voice. A deep, distorted voice. Singing. KSI's new song. Marcus stood up, his voice shaky. "This is a joke, right? Someone's messing with us?" "No one else is here," Riley whispered, shining the light toward the doorway. But the hallway beyond was pitch black. Nothing moved. Suddenly, the cards they had discarded earlier began to glow with a dull red light. The letters on the cards pulsed, and the text seemed to shift, forming new words. "Welcome to the feast. The hunger knows no end." Before any of them could react, the shadows in the room deepened, swirling together like black smoke pooling at their feet. Something moved within the darkness. A shape, tall and twisted, its limbs unnaturally long, crawling toward them on all fours. Riley's heart raced, his breath shallow. The shadow creature's face was nothing but a gaping, empty void, but somehow, Riley knew it was staring at him. "No, no, no," Jenna muttered, backing away. But the shadow kept moving closer. And then, without warning, the jukebox in the corner, an old thing that had been sitting there untouched for years, crackled to life. The distorted hum of KSI's voice boomed from the speakers, but slower, darker, like the song had been twisted into something unrecognizable. As the music played, the shadow lunged. Marcus screamed, but the sound was swallowed by the dark. The creature wrapped around him, dragging him into the blackness. His body contorted in impossible ways as the shadows engulfed him. His screams faded into the song until there was nothing left but the echo of his voice, lost in the void. Jenna sobbed, frozen in place as Riley grabbed her arm. "We have to get out of here." They sprinted for the front door, but the hallway stretched endlessly in front of them, the house warping and twisting like it was alive, like it wanted to trap them. Behind them, the jukebox continued to play, the hum growing louder, the beat of the song syncing with their racing hearts. And then, from the darkness, a new figure emerged. It was KSI, or at least something that looked like him. But his eyes were hollow voids, his skin pale and cracked like broken porcelain. His smile stretched unnaturally wide, splitting his face almost in half. The music warped as he stepped forward, his movements jerky like a puppet on invisible strings. "You came to the feast," he whispered, his voice no longer human, but something older, darker. "Now you'll never leave." The shadows surged forward, consuming the hallway, the walls, and finally Riley and Jenna. Their screams echoed through the house, but outside, the world was silent, peaceful. No one would ever know what happened in that house. By morning, the lunchly boxes were gone, and the house stood empty. Only the faint whisper of a song lingered in the air, carried by the wind. No one ever saw Riley, Marcus, or Jenna again. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe for more.